Good evening. I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's a work session of the mayor and council, city of Bisbee, county of Cochise, state of Arizona, being held on Monday, April 24th, 2023. We will continue this. We don't get through it tonight, and starting now at 5:32 at our council chamber. Roll call.
Member Juanetta Hill is excused. Councilmember Joni Giacomino. Here. Councilmember Frank Davis.
Here.
Mayor Ken Budge.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Johnson is excused. Councilmember Mel Sweet is not here, and Mayor Pro Tem Anna Klein is not here yet. City staff: Stephen Hawkins, City Manager; Ashley Coronado, City Clerk; Terry Bagley, Finance Director; Joelle Landers, Personnel Director; Nancy Kearney, Public Works Director; Tim Cox, Police Chief; Jim Richardson, Fire Chief.
Thank you. Tonight we will start going over our proposed budget and setting the ultimate limit on what can be spent for next year. Tonight we'll turn over basically the mic to City Manager Hawkins and Terry, our Finance Director. If you have questions, you can be recognized by them. Just want to say that probably the two most important things we as a council do is approve this, set this financial roadmap ahead of us. So, city manager, attorney, those are the three biggies we do. So, with that, let's move forward, see how far we can get through it tonight, and feel free as council members to sure you feel good about whatever's coming for you. Thank you. Go ahead, Commander.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Good evening. Hopefully, we can make it through the general fund tonight. That's usually the benchmark that I kind of set for the first week. General fund is all together. Now, there will be one exception to that, as library director Jason not able to be here tonight, is able to be here tomorrow night to be here for the library. So, yeah, made that minor change. So, now, the budget is a couple of things, but the most important thing is planning on. We are essentially deciding what we're going to do next year, starting on July 1st. So we set the funds in place in order to do the things that we want to accomplish here to the benefit of our revenues. That's an important topic. I've been fortunate in the last year or so to be able to our expenses with our revenues and have a little bit of cushion left over, and of course that is earlier. So as we go through that, and I want for the listening public to not spending any money. We're simply putting money in place to spend later, most of it discretion. So got long enough so anyway, starting with the general fund, just real briefly talk about a couple of some of the graphical information that has put in for one graph general fund revenue, and this is where the money comes from. General 55% from license permits. 14% from state governmental. That's essentially a state service. Urban urban revenue sharing line. 1% for charges for services, which includes a whole range of things. 3% miscellaneous from contribution. So, as you know, our general fund has some transfer. Primarily that for the compensation, pay for business services that are provided essentially. So, on page 2, you see your general fund revenue trends. Their trending has been pretty much up in all categories, all flat. Licenses, hard to tell there. It's cool. So that's what that looked like essentially. General fund balance, and over a period of time, you'll notice it starts fiscal 09 on graph 9, 10, 11, and 12. We're 29 session revenue flat during those years, but we were fortunate flat. This basically tells you that this benefit better time balance. So the general fund revenue, the other graph on that. Typically, very close together. That was the fire. So there's a little bit of spike. Basically, very bad.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, on page 4, general fund revenues by service type. Okay, now general fund for some very specific purposes. Thirds of what general fund does is provide home. So 2/3 of the chart, 65, is basic fire departments that deals with their operation. This is primarily operation. Then about 1/3 to the operation of city homes, culture. That's basically both parts. All slice there. The public works. I want to make sure that everybody that slice that says public works, although it looks very small. The public works operation largest operation. But it is defined several funds. Advice funds, specific. Water, very large fund. It'll show up here in a separate fund. That's special. So I know a lot of times people look at this chart and say, oh my gosh, you don't. Yeah, we do.
Street.
Yeah, street, I'm sorry. It's also a
That's
separate.
another big.
And of course, we'll talk about that one. On page 5, it's basically there's 3 different colors there. Public safety, environmental peace. Color brown is public safety, fire. Color gold is Arizona retirement system. Police and fire are self-explanatory. ASRS, the Arizona State Retirement System, all the rest. So, not like public safety. So, field and those fluctuated. Although we are now with this budget, some of the benefit that refinancing the bond.
Getting some feedback that
Is
they
that
can't hear.
feedback?
No, that they can't hear.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
All the people I never thought.
It's the air conditioning's running too, so we just put into that.
Okay, so moving into the numbers, starting at page 6. It starts with general fund revenue. There's 2 pages of PF revenue, and right away, the first line item on there is city sales tax. You will notice that that one is significantly higher than a year ago. There's the reason for that is because sold a bond issue for the public safety retirement system. Went to the ballot and asked the voters what's that sales tax both for structure or just we are required by terms of our bond establish a fund, a reserve fund in the general fund to essentially protect ourselves if the investments in PRS have a bad year. They actually cause us to go in the red and essentially start unfunded liability all over again. This reserve fund is established to pay that unfunded liability off. Okay. We don't want to get trapped in that hole again. So, so this actually is a very good idea. What we'll be doing with this is over the next few years, we'll be increasing that fund. We agreed with our bond issuers that about a $1.5 billion fund for the SPRS is safe. So first year we'll be putting $400,000 in there, and then following years we'll be putting similar amounts at that point. Once we reach $1.5 million or whatever council feels is the same amount in reserve, then we will be able to take that 1 cent sales tax and change the ratio if you wish, more or less to more or less to the PRS. Now, where's the money going? It's going to, when we get to admin and general government, which is several tabs down, you will notice that there is a line item in there, the third one at the bottom, that says transfers to pension bond. Okay. Figure that's in there is $400,000. So, okay, when in on revenues and it's going out on the expenditure page for it. Where's it going? It goes to the balance sheet. When you save money and don't expect to spend it in the next fiscal year or so, it moves over to the balance sheet. So then, like, get your audit next year. Well, not next year, but for the year that this is finished. Be able to see in the audit $400,000 reserves for pension. Okay. So it's sort of a tortuous path that it takes, and especially in light of the fact none of the money. So when this process is all complete, we still have the $400,000.
It does have its own line item and it's separate. Wasn't going to be commingled with, it's in the general fund, but it's not a commingled figure. We spend this.
It'll be similar to the way we treated the $2 million for the fire. Okay, because I know you all wanted to see that money, you wanted transparency so that everyone can see that money. Show that we spend it frivolously or without permission. So that's what it will be set up like moving forward. Okay, having done all that. Okay, so taxes, we're expecting revenues of 4.7 million. Licenses, permits. We're expecting revenues of about $180,000. That's a little bit more than your account, primarily due to business licenses. As you can see, we're expecting pretty much higher than budgeted current fiscal year, and so we're using a similar figure. Business license revenue. That's the big difference. Intergovernmental, we spoke about that on graph. That's the urban revenue sharing, state share revenue. We were pleasantly surprised to see urban revenue sharing went up by almost 400,000. So, and that's a direct relationship. Tax receipts at the state level. Urban revenue sharing portion is set forth in statute share with Arizona. So that tells you that the previous year there was much higher collections, so therefore they have to share much more.
18%. I found that out today.
Was that right?
Yeah, 18.
So anyway, but as you can see, looking over time, because you've got a couple of history there on your budget, go up and it can go down. So, and the big one, line item wise, in general fund is charging services. This could be, you can see that, right? So I don't have to explain every single line item. The major difference in this year is we're seeing, and I mentioned this at the strategy meeting, we were seeing 11% ambulance fees. We expect that to continue, and so we have budgeted for it. So you're looking at about 50,000 for increase. Most of the rest of it is similar, except plan examination. Apparently, those fees. So, there's up to 20,000. So that's what we put. Municipal court fines are what they are. We budget very little. Okay. So budget miscellaneous area. The big difference between previous year's account is in current. Okay. Not many bright sides. Rates going up, but well, so we able to see pretty significant. Okay, we're being a little bit conservative, projecting next year's interest earnings only because that can set them up, and that can set if everything goes with it. So
They spend the money on City Hall or something.
well, we could spend money on general expenses. Other than that, miscellaneous expenditure is relatively close to what it was. Sort of. Okay, and then the last item in the general fund is contribution. The use of reserves line item that Carrie has highlighted. On reserves, okay, that's the $400,000 transferred to administration government. we have the budget for that. So it's going in and out. Other than that, everything else is pretty similar. Right. So that gives us a projected general fund revenue for fiscal year of about 1970, which is slightly below last year, but we also have the city hall balance last year's budget. Because that's fun. Yeah. So when we get to fund 19.
The only question I would have would be on the charger for services. Really upping the fire. That. New construction. I'm not 100% sure, but I. Go ahead, just a question.
If you look at the line right below it, construction, plan required, those two lines kind of sounded like. Stuff.
Okay. A whole bunch more planning over there. All right. You combine those two and it will basically the construction.
Thank you. Okay. Up on the licenses and permits, what is a hot?
It's and construction company. Porch. To a roof. Project permit. Mostly in roofs. Porch. Plumbers, solid pipe. Buildings, they're supposed to be.
I didn't realize there was a difference.
This is
Regular
the
work permits and.
temperature of the work, I guess.
Higher risk, higher.
Well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense, so thank you for that. I don't know that I've ever seen that.
Yeah, it's fairly new.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and unless there are any more questions.
I have a question. It's on page 6, and a little bit more than halfway down. And it's vendor fees. You don't protect any vendor fees. It's 1034-10-882.
Right.
So wouldn't like
Usually it's all.
so you're not also expecting a park permit. You told me.
Stop trying to. The person running that problem.
Utility. The only other one would be charge utilities at the city park. This stuff, but city park.
We're not going to do any fire inspection.
It was split out in categories. Fire inspection official, the fire inspection.
We can actually take it.
Now all falls under. 15.
And 400.
The next one. See, they're going back.
General fund, anything? We can always come back later.
I have to.
Well, that's a conversation. Okay, so then we move into the individual departments of the general fund, starting with council. And as you can see here, council to the prior years. Unless there's any questions, I'll move on.
No raises.
Well, I haven't heard there's one balance. Okay, city manager, as you know, looking at the graph, it's the highest year for 18, 19, 21. Since that time, got a retired city manager working. So benefits package has, that's the critical difference. However, if in fact, able to retire, January here, that's going to create for somebody else, and that somebody else is more than likely. Okay, so that's the major difference. Next year is the cost of personnel. But basically, we have to the second half of the year up the operational expense, a couple $1,000s in anticipation. Typically, when we hire a new city manager, if they're not around here, have to do that's negotiated back. So,
They're having a hard time hearing stuff still.
I don't know what I don't know what more I can do except yell. But now I'm speaking into a microphone that's coming out that speaker over there, but what they're hearing is coming in that speaker over here. So
Something's wrong with this.
I'm thinking. I'll mess with that, right? But I don't want to make it crazy. Yeah, and let's speak.
so is that speaker actually working?
Yeah.
About moving it closer will help it. That might be
Just
okay. So actually, that's one more we can do. We'll try this and see how well it works. Okay, any questions on city manager? Okay, not hearing any, we'll move to the next one. Next one is finance office. Oh, and I'm gonna stop here. Because one of the things that you're gonna notice going through all the budgets, personnel costs have been increased. I have mentioned to you the strategy that we felt comfortable with doing a $1.50 per hour raise. That holds all employees except for the police department. Police department, we put $2 increase in that. Get to those departments, I'll explain those in more detail. Okay. So, and I went to finance because this is the first department any size. We'll see this calculation. And keep in mind that across all funds, all departments, the total cost of the increases that are in the budget for personnel total about $700,000. So it's a considerable investment in our employees, but one that I do after the last few years is important. So, finance department, you'll notice that personnel expenses, nothing changed there except for, the new wages. And, other expenses, really isn't very, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any expenditures that are different from last year, except perhaps for contract pricing, that sort of.
Of the 5 employees, are all full-time employees?
All right, city clerk. City clerk has 2 employees. Actually, we have another employee now, as you know, that cost is being allocated to administration and general government, so that's in a different. So the increases here are based on the same 2 folks that work. And as far as expenditures are concerned, nothing there is much different. From the prior year.
Quickly ask, notice through all these, this thing pops up as operational. What goes into that?
Everything that doesn't fall into the other categories.
Miscellaneous fund, that's
I mean, it could be a lot of different things. I mean, it's like where it has the flag and keys.
Kind of like the other.
well, it's in every one of these budgets. And
So
not picking on his clerks, but I just say. Well, look, that line, it keeps showing up on all my.
yeah, I mean, there are just things like that that
You can't,
talk about keys and
Itemize it.
locks and stuff like that that just aren't big enough to have their own line item that or the other. This is the way we've been counting.
hopefully I remember. Last one.
I have a question. On the, can we, and I think, but can we get employees?
Yes, we can, and we can get them over at the police station, and it shouldn't really cost anything.
Okay, well, because it would be nice, I guess, so, people don't claim to place cities in their west.
Yes, we've had that discussion a couple times in the last year. I guess now that council has mentioned it, Tim, I guess it's starting to get around to it.
Put out there. We are really. So if you guys want to offer. Okay, only.
But I know that the IDs are, because I used to do that. I know they're, it's just, I know it'll be. I really do think that all pretty good.
Operational expenses.
Well, which is why
That's
I'm-
exactly what's going to happen.
There you go.
It's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, if we get a new city hall, we'll actually have to have one to actually get in and out of the building. Get there, you go.
Cheaper and easier. That's cool. So, if possible.
Okay.
That could happen if ever we build a new building.
We will.
Yeah.
Not yet, exactly, not yet, we will.
Oh, it's a conversation. Okay, community development. The, now, we are budgeting for a full-time planner. We have since Doug left, we have failed to be able to attract somebody with similar qualifications, and we don't believe that has to do with what we're offering today. They're just not really out there. However, you'll notice the big difference in the budget is we have budgeted a part-time salary. That would be what we're paying Melissa Hart. Melissa has to do specifically housing planning for us, and for that we pay her by the hour. And so that's what is reflected there in the part-time salaries. I anticipate hanging on to her for a while longer. And of course, a lot of that would depend on we do get to a point where we can hire a planner if they have expertise in the housing issues that we're currently dealing with. Then we could let her go back into retirement. But for the meantime, I'm anticipating hanging on to her for a little while. So, and by the way, she's doing an excellent job. So, so that is what accounts for the difference in the expenditures in community development. And so now down towards the bottom, and I might have to have Carrie explain exactly how this is working. But we have animal shelter expenses and a line for Friends of the Animal Shelter. The animal shelter did ask us for more money starting in July, and that more money amounts to $86,000. They're currently being paid $75. 66. So we've got a total of 80 in there for Friends and 20,000 for animal shelter expenses, which would include stuff related to the operation, which they'll have to work out for us moving forward. So they do send us monthly reports, so we are seeing what they're doing, and I believe that this is a justified expense because we are, like everything else, we're seeing the costs are going up for all the things they have to do about to.
Why is there no building?
Well, we're sort of moving things around with this year's budget. We'll see we've got a budget for building repair and maintenance. Building maintenance.
As note, when I came on, actually the shelter was at 80,000, and then the city manager Teresa went through that whole thing. They took a lower amount, and now we're just basically coming back to where we were 3 years ago.
Yeah, it is basically the same as it was 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah. Just wanted to make that mention.
Now, yet to be determined is, as you know, there's another agency that has been working with the county to regionalize the animal control around Cochise County. And when we met with them a couple of weeks ago to talk about their budget, I basically asked the question, whatever happened to that? Because the county got a grant to do some work on 2 of these buildings here, this site, and nothing's been done there. And I haven't heard any more from the agency that wants to take over. And because he had talked to me a couple of times about using our existing animal shelter for animal purposes, but necessarily more or less, if you will. So let's just say I've had 2 conversations with that individual, that agency, and we still have some negotiating to do. Fair, a fair price on that, because they kind of want it for nothing, but they want to charge us for housing. So I'm trying to find the equity. Right now, I'm not seeing it. So we're about 100,000.
Is it,
No, it's the Humane Society. Who's doing all this? I don't blame him for trying. I just don't think that that's. So we'll eventually come up with something. Equity, I would say. So that's the major difference in this budget for this year for community development. Questions on that?
fairly?
You know,
Sorry, go ahead. Table. Wasn't invited. What invited? So, okay, if there's no further questions on that, we'll go to admin and general government. This is the general funds, a catch-all for items that don't fit neatly in anyone else's budget. So, starting at the top with salaries, when we hired the administrative assistant earlier this year, we made a decision to put that in this budget primarily because the person in that position works for clerk, works for the city manager, and works for finance office a little bit. So, given the nature of her work, and she works for building inspection a little bit too. Given the nature of her work, place to put back in the position. So that's reflected in the creation for the first. Well, I don't know. So, you'll notice a lot of the numbers look consistent with prior years. The property casualty and liability insurance premiums are budgeted this year at 145. That's the number they give us. Okay. Although keep in mind that through the year, I think we pay like quarterly installments to the risk pool, and through the year they adjust those premiums based on their experience with us. And we rarely ever pay as much as premium that they give us for budget. For example, this year we budgeted $100,000. It looks like we're going to hit the year 91. So, keep in mind those things can fluctuate. If we have one really bad claim, that can have a negative impact. If we have fewer claims of lower amounts, that will have a positive. So, no more city hall fires. That's good. And then the only other number I want to point out is at the bottom there. We talked about it at the beginning of the meeting, having to do with pension bond payments. This is the $400,000 in revenue from the 1 cent sales tax that went in that side and is being credited on this side. But for later on. Personnel budget. Personnel budget is pretty consistent with a year ago. Personnel expenses simply reflect increased compensation and Other expenses are consistent with prior year, if only a little bit different. The one big difference is contract services. We're budgeting at half the amount that we budgeted a year ago.
What is that?
Complain about it, got a better.
Budgeted at the $30,000. Performance evaluation software. And other plan. Performance growth, which bigger number of learning center offered. And it was performance evaluation software, and that was under $5,000. The benefits and well, look at for that. Good program, and we're in the process of.
We were to do background checks on possible new city managers. Did that come out of this or out of the city? Sometimes they get
It also,
operations. Just, I'm just looking ahead going, I'm gonna cost to replace.
well, and over the last
Big saving, right?
7 or 8 years, it's cost you a lot. Because, like, but you know, we, if you read some of the stuff I read, a lot of city managers get fired and hired every single day. So, and the average is still hovering around 40. Except for us.
We're gonna shoot for serious.
Any other questions on person? Okay, legal services. Legal services is one budget basically. You have contract services through Gus Rosenfeld. Expect not to spend all of this year. We're budgeting the same amount next year, anticipating similar results. Not anticipating that the contract will either be changed or terminated in the coming fiscal year. Then, of course, we always put $20,000 in there, but we don't always put 20, but we always put something in there for professional fees. Sometimes we have to hire outside attorneys, and so that's where it is. Water systems, this is the big one. This is the Old Bisbee Fire Suppression System, which, as you know, consists of one reservoir, one well, one pump, and a whole lot of 100-year-old lines. Continues to service, although I know we all worry about it a little bit. And because we worry about it, we've been trying for approximately 4 years now to replace it with something a little newer, more durable. And the cost of that, I mean, no fooling. You're replacing your water system and your fire protection water system, and it's about $75 million. So now the good news is that since the potable water is delivered by Arizona Water Company, the bulk of the cost is. So, but we're still working a lot of different angles on that because, we were on the phone this afternoon with Senator Sinema's people talking about I'll call this about housing, but we moved off into basically water and sewer lines, because that's what we're, that's the one, those are the two things we need the most and have the most trouble finding money. And so every chance we have to discuss it with a funding agency or a congressional representative, we do that. So we had that conversation again this afternoon.
One question I'd like, I don't know where we can put it in the budget, but part of us replacing all of our water lines through the grant, the thing that was in the water doesn't include fire hydrants. So
That's correct.
I would like to see someone put in, I don't know if we go here, that would say a grant to whatever it costs to put in 100 fire hydrants, and then we put it back somewhere else with grant money coming in. It's like, if it shows up, we can use it. That's, I don't know if that needs to show up in our budget.
Well, that would show up when we get back into the grant funds. There's,
Okay, since it was water, I thought it might, that going out, I'd show here versus there. That's what I was thinking.
that'll show the grant. We'll get there probably tomorrow.
Okay, yeah.
And,
Didn't want to-
and we did talk about those fire hydrants with the senator's office this afternoon. We're pretty sure that the existing funding agency that we've been working with, and that would be FEMA, on that particular grant. Since they won't fund it, it seems like they would fund something like fire hydrants, but they won't. We're also looking for alternative funding agencies to bring that in, hopefully with grant money.
Right, I just wanted it in our grant lines, so if we get it, we can spend it,
Do they say what they will fund it?
not in the fire protection.
They don't do fire protection. They just do, they
They just
tend
come
to,
after the fire.
they're usually the ones afterwards, yeah. It's sad, commentary. That's what that's, in so many words, that's exactly what they tell us. So, no sense being proactive. So anyway, we will continue to keep that system running. And hopefully, we did have a little bit of trouble earlier in the year with, pump water. I guess the water table went down because of the dryness. It seems to be working its way back up. We have a full reservoir right now. Barring anything catastrophic, we anticipate it'll stay that way.
And we pump, right?
Not last year. No, you would have seen that figure. So. Any other questions on that one? Information systems primarily. We do our information systems, our computer work and services has gone through an outside contractor. Same outside contractor that we've been using for several years now. And still have in effect for, I don't know how much longer. But anyway, at least one more year we'll be using the same, utilizing the same services. I gotta tell you though, it's always a little bit spooky when a guy calls you up on the phone and says, "I'm taking over your computer." All of a sudden your mouse goes and you're not touching it. And but thank God it's the right guy. Yeah. So, but we've had some upgrades to the existing equipment. We anticipate the cost for his services will be about the same. We will probably, over the next several years, start to phase out some machines that are starting to show their age in their performance. Some are working better than others, but we'll try to phase them out a little bit at a time and not have to replace the units en masse. So you will start to see that happening, but that's going to happen over several years. We're not going to try to do it all at once.
I have a question.
Yes.
Are we still happy with an Ashley?
I am.
He's been here a couple times and I've actually had the chance to spend some time with him. And I'm real pleased with.
With their service.
provided.
And if he's not available, there's always somebody that's backing him up that's familiar with our system, so it works.
I challenged him for several days on my internet. On my email. He got her. So I'm happy. That was my trial.
And he's available at a moment's notice when somebody goes fishing,
That he is.
as I think you've all experienced.
There's been a lot of fishing this year. Yeah. Only email.
Okay, the next two are police and fire. Before I get into the nitty gritty of the numbers on both of these departments, I'm gonna depart for a moment, and I'm gonna explain a little bit more closely what is happening with both police and fire. I'm gonna do it together. As far as their wages are concerned, I know there's been a good bit of interest generated, particularly in the last couple of months, about how much we pay firefighters. Okay. And depending on how you express how firefighters are paid, it either looks very good or it looks very bad. And I reject both notions. Simply because we've always tried to pay our employees fairly, regardless of what department they work in. And we've always wanted to improve everyone's standard of living so that they could all make a good living working for the city. We don't have total control over what happens with that, because we only fund one agency. We fund business. Okay, what other agencies do sometimes doesn't make much sense, but it creates pressure. And so I'm going to give you some numbers, and this is, and I'm going to round these a little bit to the nearest $500. Okay, so and so a police officer, and these are starting salaries. This is the bottom end. This is no overtime, except institutional overtime in the case of fire department. This is someone on their first day, and they have no training, they have no experience, and they may well be like 19 years old. Okay, so this is what we started at. Okay, so for a police officer, the current starting salary is $38,500. Okay, starting salary. That's no overtime. Okay. And that usually includes being paid to train before they go to the academy, and their field training after they come back from the academy. And so, you know, typically you're used to hearing that a police officer is on duty for about a year before we can turn loose on their own. Okay. So that police officer, his first year with no additional overtime, will currently earn $38,500. And again, I'm rounding to $500. Okay. This budget, starting July 1st, that starting salary is going to change to $42,500. Okay, $42,500. And in conversations with Chief Cox, we feel that $42,500 will work with his needs for new police officers, and he feels it will also show police officers around the county that they can make a living if they want to come to work here. Okay. As always, lateral transfers from other departments don't usually start at the bottom. I know there was a day in Bisbee where they did. Okay. For instance, we brought a firefighter in during this fiscal year who had been working for another fire department, and he was considering retirement. But he came over and he talked to the chief. And the chief talked to me to come and work for us part-time, and he lasted about 2-3 months, and now he's full-time again. We didn't start him at the moment. Okay, gentleman had worked for us before, and so he knew our systems, he knew our community, and so we started him at a higher level. Those are judgment calls that are made usually between the fire chief and the city manager in those cases. So, but for purposes of this budget, okay, the starting pay for a recruit police officer is gonna be about 42,500. All right, now firefighters. Current starting salary for a firefighter EMT in today's budget, that's not written anywhere now. I don't, we're at the police department.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay,
Yes.
current starting pay for a firefighter EMT in the current fiscal year is $46,000. On July 1st, starting pay for a firefighter EMT goes up to approximately $51,000. Okay. If you have a medic, then a firefighter paramedic currently starts at $49,000. And on July 1st, that firefighter paramedic is going to start at $54,000. Okay, again, that's starting pay. First year, no experience, no training. Okay. And again, both in fire and police, if we pull a lateral transfer in, that lateral transfer will be paid based on their knowledge experience. And maybe a little more if they're familiar with our fire department or police department. So currently we have almost I think, well, we've got exactly 4 part-time firefighters. We pay them an hourly rate. And I believe we sent out to you today a list of W-2 compensation for all city employees, including fire. And I believe that went out by email. Is that correct?
This morning, yes.
And so if you haven't checked your email, it's there. So, and again, checking with the chief and judging our compensation package against other local fire departments, this is pretty competitive. Okay. Now, you're not going to compete with Sierra Vista. And you're going to compete with Douglas in the first year, but after that, theirs goes up pretty quickly. Okay, but again, you've got 2 much larger fire departments, and you wouldn't expect to compete with them. The latest benefits.
Could you send it again? Because I didn't get it.
Yep, resending it as we speak, and I'm just forwarding it from the original. It's sent.
Okay, if there's no questions on that, I'll move into the department budgets. Now, keep in mind that I just talked to you about the salaries, okay? Of course, the impact of how much we pay people also is reflected in what we call the EREs and the fringe benefits package. Some of those items are based, like Social Security, Medicare, and that stuff is based on what your actual earnings are. So, so those went up along with the salaries.
PSPRS.
Except for PSPRS, thank God. So as you can see, the proposed salaries full-time in the police department jumps to almost $1 million a year versus what we budgeted last year at about 730,000. And so that's a significant budget, and that assumes full employment. Okay, now part of the reason for raising the rates so much is to make us competitive with other departments so we can have an easier job to recruit. Yeah. And Tim, excuse me, Chief Cox and Chief Richardson and I have had these conversations over and over again, come up with this so that we would be able to present something out there that they could use to attract new employees. mostly recruits. So this is the summation of those discussions. In terms of other other expenses in the department, you go down to education and training, about 5 or 6 down. We bumped that a little bit because we're anticipating additional training requirements, and of course, if you're able to attract new people, you've got new training requirements, and they'll have to pay for some of those. Contract services went down a little bit. Chief, you want to elaborate on that?
There was a few contract of services, looking at previous year's budgets and going forward that we don't need, or we weren't spending everything that was there. So I went ahead and just requested that could be lowered a little bit to offer a little better room in our budget. To possibly make up for some of the other stuff as well.
Where's CCOM?
That falls under a different. budget.
Contract
Contract
Yes,
service.
contract services.
Budget?
Mhm.
We were thinking of going more CCOM, I saw the drop, and so I was thinking, how can we drop it and have, yes, some CCOM.
CCOM is about $126,000 now.
Okay.
I have a question. Chief, it's showing here that we're down, or that we have 6 vacancies for our full-time officers.
Yes, ma'am.
Have we had anybody showing up for any of the testing or?
Yes, ma'am. I have one in the academy right now. He's in week 15 of 20. I've had anywhere from 1 to 3 show up for testing. They either don't make it through our testing, or once they get into the backgrounds, I've been running into problems with background investigations. Our problem is recruiting and quality at the same time. So the one we have in the academy, we actually stole him from another agency that had already hired him. And he came and talked to me because he said that he heard Bisbee was a better department, and I hope I sold him on that. So that's what I'm hoping to do.
So now, are we utilizing Cochise College Academy, or are we?
At this point, we're using Cochise College because it just matched up with what I needed, but I've been working with Joel quite frequently. And we've decided with our training budget, if we get it increased and everything, because there's academies going on. Generally, most academies, there's 90 police academies throughout the state. Generally, most of them, because of the length of time of the academy, they can only do 2 a year. But some of them start off of each other, so there is the possibility that we might use an academy elsewhere, such as Phoenix. Yuma just started a brand new one with the college down there. There's one in Lake Havasu. Who doesn't want to go to Lake Havasu? I mean,
Not me.
That is horrible.
It's okay.
so there's even one on the Navajo reservation all the way up at the Colorado Indian reservation that we can use. So my philosophy and my plan is we test as soon as we get applicants. I don't make them wait. I don't sit there and go, hey, 4 months from now, we're gonna have testing when I have 15 guys. If I got 2 guys, we'll test them now. And if any of them pass, I'm looking for the most immediate academy to put them into. Because we're pretty dire. I don't know if the city council realizes our graveyard shift currently, there are nights where we are operating with. And that's it. And if that guy gets sick or we run into issues, we've got problems.
Tim gets to come in.
I get to come in, the overtime goes up. I might have to call county. We're maintaining and we're doing good. Part of that is because I am on the schedule as part of day shift. If I don't work the schedule, we're not filling holes, and it just creates a lot of problems. It puts a lot of pressure on my guys because they're working 12-hour shifts instead of 10s or 8s. So we're trying to do what we can.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you are looking at all of the available academies, because I know some of them are only, like you said, set times that and if we can just shuffle around and
cost becomes part of the factor. We don't look at the Tucson Academy, which is called Salida. They charge 15,000 per recruit. Whereas if I went to Yuma, it's like 3,000. But that's because we're paying for food. They're supplying room and education, we pay for food. Celestia is an all-inclusive, you gotta pay for food and all that, but the cost is extremely high with them. But there's other academies out there, like I said, there's 9. So I got 8 others I can look at. Our problem right now is just pure recruitment.
And we're not the only one in that position. I know other cities and towns are
They have issues.
struggling. Yeah, everybody's struggling.
Where I run into problems is talking to my peers, like, I don't compare myself to Sarah Vista because I can't, but like Tombstone, Vincent, Douglas, Wilcox. I get 2 applicants and they're getting 6. Right now, like the Tombstone Marshal Office, they have no officers with less than 5 years of experience because all of their deputies have come in as laterals. And that's what I'm competing with. So the pay raise that Mr. Clarkin spoke about, that will put us very, very close, if not directly competitive with Tombstone Marshal Office, which was my target.
Good. Thank you. I have a question.
Go ahead.
You have police officers and then you have reserve. What's
Yes.
reserve?
Reserve officers are certified police officers, but under the Arizona Post requirements, they only have to maintain an 8-hour a month work to be able to maintain their police certification. So what we get is a lot of our former officers or officers that retire from other agencies, they still want to maintain that certification. So they just come to work for us in a reserve capacity to maintain a police officer certification. But they're cops. They do the same job as everybody else in the department. They're required to take calls and handle issues just like anybody else. When they're on duty, they're busy police officers.
So my other question is, we have continual complaints about parking issues, about illegal mowing homes, et cetera, et cetera. Is there any thought ever of taking one of those positions that is having difficulty being filled and utilizing it for a time being for meter mates? They wouldn't have, it's not somebody out there that's just actively fighting.
I've actually thought about that, but again, it falls down to recruitment. I can create all the positions I want, but if I don't have any applicants, it doesn't do me any.
But does that have to be does a meter person, meter maid, I'll call it that just because of my age?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Does that person have to be an actual firearm certified person or?
They have to be a certified peace officer if you want law enforcement.
Okay,
Otherwise, they have no authority. I can send the K-9 guy out.
so they can't issue tickets.
No, not unless they're law enforcement.
I have a question. The chief just said we only had one officer on night shift because of the number of people we have in the department.
Yes, sir.
Okay, why do you only have one? Why don't we have more? Is this a scheduling issue, having trouble scheduling the proper people on the right shift?
No, sir.
It's
It's staffing.
filling vacancies.
I know, I saw the vacancy I'm talking about now.
It's staffing. Every shift I have has 2 people assigned to it.
Okay, so why the night only has one?
Because
Is the night more important than the day shift?
because I have to give somebody a day off eventually. I can't work them 7 days a week.
Okay, the question is, you have 2 people on the day shift?
I have 2 people on night shift too.
You just said you only have one.
There are days where I do
These
not,
are days, not all the time.
not all the time,
Okay,
days,
just need to
when they're
clarify
off.
when you're off.
I
But
have to get-
otherwise you have 2 people at night, on the night shift.
And my priority was Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays.
So you make sure you have 2 people on the night shift. for those days.
Exactly.
Okay.
One more thing to note, if you look at the personnel costs, item 11,400, PSDRS, you'll notice that, we budgeted 770, and we're gonna end the year at 395. That's because partway through the year, we paid full bond issue, we paid off the unfunded liability. So, next year, that figure is gonna be about 129,000, okay? However, you go over to the next page at the bottom, you'll see a budgeted figure of 616,000. And that will be transferred to debt service, that will be along with the same line item in the fire department budget, that will be our, that will be our bond payment for next year, okay? And will still be significantly less than what we were paying up until this year when we started the budget.
What were we paying, you know, on something?
77.
Now, 770 plus fire.
Oh, yeah. The both of them.
Yeah, so it's about $300,000 or $400,000 more. And, but it's not a direct relationship because with bond payment, you're just paying the debt. You will continue to pay the PSPRS, the current premiums. I don't know if they're premiums, but that's what I call them.
But more like 12 cents on the dollar instead of 90 or 100.
Right.
That's right. Yeah, 1 year we were at 105. So,
Clear that.
So, and the prospect of it going up to $2 million a year is no longer good. So. Okay, that's police. Fire. And again, as you can see, the impact of salaries, and this is, it's budgeted to be fully staffed, okay? No vacancies. That way we can fill vacancies and we've got financial authority to pay. The proposed salary budget for fire is now topped $1 million. And you're at about $1.9 million for the total personnel expense, which is less than last year, but for the same reason that I just talked about, where we're no longer paying PSPRS. In the fire department's case, it was just shy of $1 million. Next year, it's going to be premiums only at about $216,000. So, and then of course, when you go to the next page, you're going to see at the bottom about $627,000 for debt service.
Not that I want to wish any ill on anybody, but is $20,000 for the wildland fires? Didn't we get a truck that we can rent out, or was that something I misunderstood?
Are you talking about revenues?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Oh, well,
this is
yeah,
for,
expenses.
yeah, this is for wildland fires that we have to go out.
Right.
Okay, like they went out, I think, 3 times last year, is that correct, Amy?
Yes.
To locations where they went on a 2 or 3 week assignment. That's what that refers to.
Okay.
And essentially, the revenue for that, on the revenue side, it looks really good. But the only real money that you're making on the wildfires is for the vehicle. Thank you. So the rest is a wash because we bill them for our personnel services and they pay us back. So we're not really making money on that. That's a wash. So, but we do make a little money on equipment, which down the line is going to assist us a little bit with replacing equipment as well. So on the other expenditures, everything here is either down, it's pretty similar to before. We do have $50,000 budgeted again this year in capital expenditures. That would be in the case we have the opportunity to spend some of that money we earn renting our truck out. We are, quite frankly, we are expecting sometime during the fiscal year to ask for permission to go out for bid for a new ambulance. During the course of conversations with the firefighters union over the last few weeks, I can't remember what the newest model year of the newest ambulance was, but 17, but it's too old for me. And we need to get back into the old schedule that we used to be in, where we buy a new vehicle ambulance vehicle every 5 years. We typically have to finance those vehicles and we use a 5-year lease purchase plan in order to do that. We expect to keep the vehicles a minimum of 10 years. But when you look at the age of all 4 vehicles, I think you're a little bit out of date. And when we buy a new ambulance vehicle, we try to buy it with a new defibrillator and a new stretcher as part of the package. As you know, we're buying defibrillators out of the ARPA fund. It's about a $40,000 machine. And typical stretcher is 25,000. So we like to package that into the ambulance, so we're just making one payment.
Is 50,000 enough?
It should be enough for the first year's payment, yeah.
So for 25,000, are these fancy gurneys or are they just the regular?
Well, they don't, we don't let them get too fancy.
Why?
We go full bore on the defibrillator
The
because
chrome wheels aren't.
we're all potential users. But, yeah, but the gurneys, we don't have to go top of the line. But they're nice, they're better. They won't go.
Okay, so they are, I mean, there's.
Yeah.
They're not like the old fashioned ones.
No, man. Takes 4 people to lift one.
That costs more on your back than it does
Right.
for the journey.
Yeah, we make up for that in workers' comp.
Yeah, I didn't have it, I never had it that way. I will beat I've been being on this since I got on the council in 2007. Still believe in a replacement fund, that somehow we start to pull some money out, I don't know how we can do it, but somehow out of ambulance revenues or whatever, we start doing the replacement fund, so there's 50,000 there when we need to start rolling on it.
We had talked about that at a strategic plan.
Yeah. And, you know, think about this for a minute. One of the things, there are several methods that don't necessarily put a line item in the budget that have money available. Okay, we talked at the strategic planning meeting about discipline and the advantages that the discipline has given us in terms of ending the year with a little bit higher balance so that we could pay off old debts and that sort of thing. You are, when we get to the end of this, you're going to see that we're right now projecting that at the end of the year, that we will be $310,000 in the black in the general fund. Okay. That money is going to go directly to fund balance. Okay. Less any money that you take out. Okay. And so, now it was close to $1 billion until we paid off the rest of our unfunded liability to PSPRS. But that was an opportunity we couldn't pass off because that's 7.3% interest that we're no longer paying. And so, and your general fund balance at the moment is hovering around $1.7 million. We have a fund balance. And so to the degree that you choose to budget that fund balance in the coming year is completely your call. We're presenting you what we think will work to fund everything that needs to be funded in the coming year. But, you know, if you were to decide you were going to do something else, you've already got a vehicle replacement fund in essence. It's called fund balance. Now you cut into the fund. None of the years that I have worked here, you have cut into your fund balance, but I know there were some where you did.
So that fund balance doesn't include the money we got for
From fire?
yeah.
No. Like I say, that we segregated that money in 2019. Just beating my ass. Go ahead.
Okay, so question,
Did you say beat me up?
I did.
he said that,
Oh,
not me.
I'm not saying that.
I don't know why he said that, but.
I have a copy.
No, Anna scares me.
Yeah, I did.
Is it late yet? No.
I have a question on the vehicle replacement, because we have talked about this for years and years and years and years, and you know, I know one of the things that in a previous administration, we had gotten an agreement
to, at first it was like 10% of every ambulance transfer would go into a separate line item so we could start billing it. That never happened. And I know that we haven't had transfers for a while. Now, is that something that, you know, we're looking at? And if we are, could we set from every transfer fee, could we set up, whether it's a percentage or just a flat number? Is that something that we could do and start building up that line item?
Based on the level of activity you have right now, you are doing some transfers. You're not doing a lot.
Right.
Okay, but your ambulance, overall, your ambulance activity is up 11% this year. Financially from the year prior. And so, and you know, Jimmy and I have been talking with firefighters and encouraging those types of things. We've also been talking with Arizona Ambulance, who has the contract that governs how many runs we actually get, which I certainly don't agree with, but I'm stuck with it till it expires. And our conversations with Arizona Ambulance have, shall we say, yielded a little bit more fairness than we were getting prior to me coming back to work. And that's why you're seeing that 11% change. And quite frankly, the discipline in our own people also requires that, you know, an ambulance call gets dispatched to a dispatcher at, or excuse me, a transfer gets dispatched to Arizona Ambulance Company, who's then counted on to contact us, and we have to be able to respond to that kind of.
When does it expire?
Unless Jim knows, I'd have to go back and look at the contract.
Do we remember?
I don't remember. Actually, we're in limbo right now, but we're in negotiations. They're going to get back with us. Just haven't yet. To finalize it.
Let's just say they don't go out of their way to contact us, so we have to go out of our way to contact them.
I guess my final, I might have it last second, is we're anticipating $700,000 in ambulance revenue. Now, a lot of that is in-house. I mean, sure. So if we buy an ambulance, we don't just use it for transfers, we also use it for in-house. So, you know, we have to look at it. I would look at it and say, okay, out of that 700,000, how much is transfer, how much of it is first responding 911 calls in-house. Then we would break it down from there. And so that I just want to make sure that as the money comes in for actual transfers, that some of that could help pay for replacements. As far as replacing the whole ambulance that's used within the city, that's just going to have to take part of the general fund. But that was my hope, was that it's an incentive for our firefighters to do transfers, knowing that that's going to help replace their equipment with newer stuff. So that was, so time for.
And we do have a transfer to grant match in there too, the next line down. And that would be in the case of we succeed in getting a FEMA grant, which we do once in a while. We certainly don't every year. They don't award they don't award every fire agency every year. So we have to wait our turn, but we always apply for a piece of equipment and we have to have a grant match for it. And in the past, we've used our own grant match, and in the past, we've had commitments from other people around town to essentially donate the grant match to us. I don't have one of those at the present time, so sounds like it's dinner time over there.
And just,
Sure, go ahead.
just for the logic of this, basically, when we're doing this budget, we are assuming that all these positions we're gonna try and fill out.
That's correct.
Okay. So if I just go to a line here on uniform and clothing, we estimate to spend 15,750 this year, and we're proposing 15,750. This is with about 6 vacancies. Are we gonna, we already have the uniform? Are we gonna buy the uniform? And what was the logic that was used in this?
Well, the logic that's used in this is that, each firefighter is allowed a certain amount of equipment under this uniform until they get an allowance. Okay, and once they've spent their allowance, it's gone. Okay, some years they'll spend their entire allowance and some years they won't spend any. And so it usually levels out and you know, now if we were to fill every position, we would definitely spend
We're
it.
gonna hire.
Yeah, we would spend
No,
it
the
all.
reason I'm saying this, Steve, is this year, as just it's saying here, we're estimating to spend 15,750
Right.
with about six vacancies. And we're proposing 15,750. So if we are thinking about we're gonna have additional personnel, that number should be up because we're assuming we're gonna have 6 more people.
No, because I've got 6, and I've got 15 other people that might not like it.
So this is not based on logic then, just based on maybe something will happen.
No,
Maybe I can.
I mean,
From my,
the logic is that you don't wear out every piece of clothing completely every year.
No, Steve, I understand that, but I'm just saying, I'm just so I can understand this. We assume we're gonna spend 50,000 by the end of this year, 750, 6 vacancies. And we're proposing to increase, or hopefully to fill 6 vacancies with the same amount. The 6 people that are gonna come in, we're gonna have to buy them uniform, don't we? So that's just, I just wanna clarify.
maybe I can help.
But
From
being
doing
a fighter,
many years.
uh,
You hire on, that's when the big expense comes, because you have to have so many uniforms. Well, last year, we hired 4 or 5. 4. Well, there's four that got uniform allowance last year. Well, now they're already done, so next year we'll hire maybe 6, so we've almost.
I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying we need to propose more if we think of that. That's all. It's
I mean, the same, we covered it with hiring more last year, we hired the same again.
Yeah.
I kind of have the same question along that lines. Is that gonna be enough for turnout here?
Um,
Don't we, I'm correct, I don't know about turnout. Does each person get turnout gear or is there like a bunch of turnout gear that we have and it
Yes,
recycles, I guess, not the better word.
the answer is yes. I mean, our eventual goal would be to have 2 sets of turnouts for every firefighter. But the current rate of turnover, it's a good day when everybody's got one. We of course, we keep whatever is left behind when a firefighter leaves us. And sometimes that can be reused. All turnout gear reaches a point where we don't feel comfortable reusing it again. Because of concerns about cancerous materials and that sort of thing. So, so the answer is yes to both.
So that's why, along with him, is that really enough money for
That's what
turnout?
I was-
Turnout gear is expensive.
Well, let me put it to you this way. If it turns out that instead of 15,750, then it's 16,050, that's budget costs.
I was just looking at the turnout here, because I'd always heard turnout gear was really expensive. And that's.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and that's why 12,000 didn't seem, I mean, what if we have a bus, hypothetically, wishful thinking, we get higher. More people that we have.
Well, and if you look at your history, okay, our year-end estimate is $6,000.
Right.
Our actual amount the year before was 4,700.
And that was with 4 people that you bought, turn out here for, how many did we know?
Well, since I returned to work, we've been fully staffed for exactly 1 month. But more often we've had 4 vacancies or more.
So I guess my question is, what does it cost for 1 firefighter's full turnout here?
3,500 to 4,000, roughly 4,000.
So let's say it's 4,000, and that, I guess that's my concern, because if we have.
Thank
Like I
you.
said,
This is
wishful thinking, we have, 3 vacancies. Or no one, yeah, and then do firefighters. There's 4 firefighter paramedics and 3 firefighter paramedics and 2. What if we got all 5? I mean, I'm just, that was just my concern. Is there really a?
We reuse, the turnouts that are good, that somebody can fit into properly. If they don't fit, if they're too big or too small, we have to buy a new set, so. A lot of
So it's
times,
not,
the average, there's a lot of average sized people and you can utilize Some turnouts were bought a couple of years ago.
So you wouldn't have to buy, if hypothetically speaking, 5 people was hired. We wouldn't have to buy 5 full turnouts. That's what you're
Probably
saying.
not.
Okay, that was, I guess.
You might have to buy one or
That's
two.
good.
Okay, that's what I just want to clarify, because I would hate to, be down that road. What if we have one call, there's a bunch of people that want it.
I would like that.
Yeah.
Um,
So that'd be a nice
You
problem.
know, that's actually the category of pleasant dilemma.
Yeah.
But, and in all candor, unless we absolutely have to, we try not to outfit a new firefighter in a new turnout gear. Simply because there's a high rate of failure. And if they don't make it through probation, then, we got another set of virtually unused turnouts.
There's always operational expenses.
You really love that, man.
I have a red mark on every one. Anyway,
Doesn't have your name on it, Kim.
one more.
Chief, when do our turnouts age out? I mean, I know
10
there's
years.
10 years?
Oh, okay.
Oh, I didn't think it was that long, okay. And it would, I mean,
That's NFPA standard. We've had turnout longer than that.
but we should,
In standard is not even more application. The physical material loses its integrity to resist fire.
So we
And
issued
we-
that to the chief.
right, and you really could have a turnout for everybody, because I know, I mean, I go to those every year at the leagues and.
Yeah.
And that, that's what they're saying, oh, well, everybody, in some departments are actually going to 3 turnouts. And I said that'd be wonderful, but sometimes we have a hard time getting one set of turnouts, so, yeah, it would be nice to get at least 2 for each firefighter.
We did apply for a grant for a second set, but we were turned down. So, but we're about halfway through the life of our turnouts now, so it's gonna be something we're gonna. Oh, we did have we're working on a replacement program to buy a couple of pair every year, so everybody's turnouts gonna come due the same time. I agree. So like garbage. Yeah, so that's the plan. But the problem with that is I don't know what size is ready, the guy that, if he's gonna stay or not, so hopefully this year, with the generous raise that, we proposed, that'll help retain and bring in more fire.
I will ask for one favor. The electric budget between the 2 stations is almost $1,000 a month. Proposed. I know, maybe we can find some LED lighting for the room or whatever. It's even.
Well, and we're working on that, but I mean, LED lighting is that, the impact on this is not that. Where you're gonna see the difference is when we put the new HVAC systems in.
Well,
Which could be here before the end of the calendar.
yeah, so.
Just last question here, or a proposal. The mayor just mentioned electric. Is there something you can start thinking, maybe if it doesn't happen now, something think about the station, solar, start investing sometime in solar, but in the long run, maybe budget partially, or get like a deal where we're paying, like, is that something you thought about or that can be helpful?
Yeah, I'm smiling because of our history both with the solar grant that we got for City Hall, as well as our history with APS. For instance, we got called by APS, so we're gonna be meeting with them again next month. And they wanted a site, okay, where they could put a solar, and they wanted it to benefit the community. And so the first thing that we thought about was the senior center, okay, which we recently spent a lot of money on both inside and outside. And they agreed that that was a good choice. That was a year ago. And I asked Richard recently, I said, you were gonna put solar panels up at the senior center, whatever happened to that? Well, we're working on it. So now, in the beginning, when APS started doing that stuff, they outfit every school in the state. Okay, and at that time I asked him, I says, well, why are you just doing schools? Why can't you do other public facilities? And I don't know that I'm gonna take the high road and believe this was a joke. I was told they just like school better.
I mean, but for us, I mean, whether through APS or through other entities, organizations, is that something maybe you can start thinking about for the police station, for the fire department?
We already have.
And in the long run, I think, we have a lot of sun here, and I think we can do well with this if somehow the money we're spending, we budget, and maybe we can get a payment, come up with some.
Like I said,
innovative
we
thing
got
to do
2
this.
projects in the pipeline right now. And we will take any opportunity we can to get any solar panels we can get. Plus the one down at the wastewater plant that was completed several years ago. Yeah, we're always looking for opportunities for solar.
So maybe it was something we can talk about and maybe look at maybe in the future, if we can do now.
Does it have to be APS?
Yeah, this one.
No, but you gotta be careful after that, okay, because there's a lot of. Shall I call them less than reputable operators out there?
Right.
Where you end up supposedly getting it for free and end up paying more for it than you would if you just bought yourself.
But doesn't going through APS, that just locks you into a rate? It's not necessarily,
No, it doesn't lock into rate, they'll keep rates up. The purpose of that is to generate power from that facility that becomes a credit against the bill for that building. So, and I believe that's similar to what they're doing at public schools.
Right.
So essentially, when I mean, same thing applies for the HVAC system. Once we replace those 3 buildings with HVAC, then we're gonna benefit from the efficiency that's gained by putting in new systems. But in the case of APS, we're always gonna have electric bill. They'll see to that.
But it would be minimal.
But it will be minimal compared to what we're paying.
Exactly.
And if I can just find a way to convert the senior center so that we don't have to use propane anymore, we'll save a ton of money. We'll see that later. So yeah, we're thinking about that every day. 6 more to go. 6 more to go? Well, it depends if you're done here. Sounds like you are. Okay, magistrate, the only changes are the changes that you approved in the magistrate's package. Which were minimal to the degree that we're budgeting a little bit less this year than last year. And I hesitate to talk about contract services too loud. If you're going to change your mind. So we'll just call it good.
It would be, it talks slower, so let's mark it that.
Cemetery. So cemetery budget is very similar to what you've seen in the past. And unless you have any questions.
what's considered disposable equipment and tools?
Weed eater string, like replacement heads for the weed eaters. It was,
And
stuff that we're not gonna just keep off like in our trailers for the DOC crews and stuff like that.
operational expenses?
It's like anything else random, if we need. Some wood to cover up a grave for safety reasons, if it needs to stay open for a certain amount of time or whatnot. Sometimes we have to buy, different, 2x4s or OSB for that.
So, is that a yearly expense? So, what's the actual that we've spent on DOC this year? It is not there. It just says budget was 3,000. What to date, do you know what we spent so far?
Looks like 0.
But we,
Yeah.
so we haven't paid the,
It hasn't come out, so that's something that we want to,
because they've been, I mean, they did a great job. They're doing a great job, I
Yeah.
should say right now. I was just curious.
I don't know how that actually goes into there. I don't know what to do. Usually.
Well, I know we know where the bills go. when we get there.
Yeah, yeah.
I just thought, I was just curious because, 3,000 is not enough, because if we get the rains that they're projecting. Potentially this next year, he might need more, and I'm just worried, where are we gonna run to that? What's your favorite thing? Operational expenses? It's there.
That's why I'm here to put it there.
And I'm gonna be a little snarky here, because
That's a
they're
big
paying
task.
$708 in sewer and garbage. Maybe they can think that one regular.
That's something I will talk about.
Please do.
That's something that they're supposed to be doing once a week.
It's on the round.
Yep.
Um, We'll go there. I'm just curious about the like I said, the DSC, because when they do cut it, it's nice, and then, it's.
Yeah, and they, I mean, honestly, it shouldn't be more than 3,000.
Okay.
I mean, we do it, I think, 3 times a year. So it should not be over $3,000.
So I guess one other question, what does, Stronger and like Jason, just, stuff like for paint. If we want to paint the plants, where would that come under?
Operations.
Just operational. Yay.
And in the case it costs more than what we have budgeted, it'll go into, both maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it came out of, directly out of the seams.
I'll put that on my notes for the curve.
Yeah, it's things.
Well, I thought you were gonna put paint in your nose.
No.
Okay. We'll take building maintenance. New person. Okay, new person so far, we have a gentleman who works for us currently. In the street department, who, if you've seen, some of the work he's done for us, particularly at the senior center. His talent is not really paving streets. It is really construction. And particularly over the winter months when we didn't have paving to do, we were able to take advantage of his talent. And the talent of other people in that department, to get a whole lot of stuff fixed. And so we want to reassign him to building maintenance. For the two of us that will remember, we had a full-time building maintenance person on staff for years.
Yeah, we did.
And yeah, it was a guy named Rick. And so I'm not sure what happened after Ray left. But apparently nothing happened. But what we're doing is and we have to be very careful about this, as you know, because the street department is partially funded by HERF funds. You can't use HERF money to hang drivers, so be careful how we charge their time. So this will put somebody in the general fund. It's going to do that without that particular worry. That's a minor worry, quite frankly, but it can be a major worry if we get caught using HERF money to fix the building up. So we have to be very careful. And so
we
that.
do that on an open.
All I'm saying is that we're not going to do it. And nor have we ever. And so anyway, that amounts to what the personnel costs are in this particular budget. Sorry. And then in the contract services, I'm trying to recall, Matt, what the $10,000.
Yeah. So the $10,000 is a couple things. So I know a couple of them are the elevator maintenance for our 2 buildings in Old Bisbee. The library and the mining museum. That is our building, so we do maintain that. Trying to remember.
$10,000. I mean, they charge a lot for that.
Yeah, it's not just that. I'm trying to remember what was done to that. I can definitely see what my notes are.
The other item of note is building repair and maintenance. Basically, what we tried to do is consolidate the building repairs from all the individual. I mentioned this before. You'll see money for building maintenance later. Here it is. We're trying to consolidate the building maintenance costs in this department.
So is this why it shut up so much?
Yeah.
By
That's
60%?
Yeah.
It's gone down another.
Okay.
I think it's gonna go-
Why is there such a fluctuation in, Hillcrest? You're going from year-end estimate of 5,000, is that because you've already bought all the board and boarded up with? You know, one of them.
Well, we have bought all the board there is, but we bought all the board we need. to board up every stinking door.
Yeah, and that's just for if throughout the next year, we need to, do any more boarding up, fixing, sweeping up.
Maintenance and
Yeah, in case something happens, hopefully nothing does, but we've already had to go up there and remove graffiti out the building, so.
It's a good thing to do.
I will be one of the happiest guys in Bisbee when we finish it. So that building.
When we no longer see Hillcrest on anything, right? Yeah.
That'll be my fondest hope. So, other than that, no questions. Probably. We get to take care of our golden. Well, then, like us, they're not getting any younger.
No, yeah.
Yes.
speak for yourself.
You can defy gravity. So, okay, Public Works Administration, okay, this is that part of the budget that, basically is mostly personnel, expenses. And, a portion of the Public Works Director, the Operations Manager, and the 2 administrative assistants comes out of here, okay? Essentially, their salaries are divided among all of the public works departments. So there's a little bit of math in wastewater, there's a little bit of math in the street department, and the same with the other 3, okay? So this is the part that's attributed to the general fund. So, so that's why it doesn't look as large as you might expect.
And that's a good way to do
So is that the same? Like if you look at disposable equipment and tools, why is it 0 funded? I know it was before, is that gonna be removed and is that been distributed somewhere else?
Yeah, it's been distributed among other departments because they won't use those kind of tools at the office.
Right?
And yeah, what do we do, debt services? What's that?
We have, a couple vehicles and then the Xerox machine.
Oh. That's right, their own content.
So is that why there's no printing and reproduction? Because you have a Xerox?
We just never use them.
Yeah, and then, when does the lease expire on those 2 vehicles?
I think it's within a year of now. We had them close to, I think, 2.5 years. I think it were a 3-year lease. So I think it should be getting pretty close.
So that's a number that may disappear.
So why do we have no money for recruitment, employee testing? Does that come out of some other line?
I think a lot of that comes out of the
Human resource?
human resources budget.
So that's eventually gonna disappear and possibly on. Are all these 0 lines gonna eventually disappear? Yeah, that's what I was just curious.
Yeah, when we get to zeros all across, then it's time to look at it. Unless there's a particular need to bring it back to the line, but hopefully not. Bless you. Okay. Public Works, garage. Okay, this is the 2 mechanics. Who fix our vehicles and probably things that may not be vehicles, but nobody else can fix them, so they go down to the garage and they get fixed. And the garage funds 2 employees full-time, and well, costs are, as you see them there, not I don't think there's any great deviation from last year's budget, other than the personnel expense.
Contract services for garage space.
Uniforms.
So,
Yeah, that's uniforms. I don't know what else.
The water.
So we not have any more diesel vehicles? Or do we get, or does that
Not,
come out?
not in, the mechanics only have one vehicle that they utilize, so that's what this is for, that's not like all the vehicles in public works, this is just under.
So they have no need for diesel or diesel exhaust for it.
No,
Must be buying these.
Right.
yeah,
So then where did parts and labor go for that specific? Because there's nothing there for parts and labor, so what happens if they're down? Not to change them, right? It's not next to the last almost, it's right above capital,
yeah,
because you have nothing,
I
I
don't
mean,
know,
it's,
they have vehicle parts and labor up above.
oh, so, okay, so it's,
That's different, I don't honestly know exactly what that is,
yeah, another one.
That will probably roll off next year.
yeah.
It looks like we never had it since 21 zeros in there, so.
Kind of like with the building maintenance or repairs, gonna actually disappear.
Yeah.
So
So,
last year's budget, there's probably zero in there too.
so vehicle parts and labor, there's 1,500, they use the vehicle, going to the not hardware store, but, going to, Napa, and then also if they need to do, work out in the field, vehicles or tractors that are out in the field, they utilize those.
So do their office supplies come through another? Then or they just?
They don't have really any occupied, and they have their cell phones to do the work orders on, so. They don't have any printers or anything.
Okay, building inspector, this is gonna be a transition year. For building inspection, we are anticipating, the long-term building inspector will retire, probably next February. And that which will coincide with his tenure in working. So in the meantime, we have been training a person in public works who works currently in the police department. And who works over in the inspection office generally 1 day a week. And since the building inspector reports to the public works director, who reports to Matt, so Matt controls that activity. And the gentleman who's training to be a building inspector has passed his test to get his building inspector ticket. And so now we've actually started putting them out to do inspections occasionally.
So my question is, why do we have no money for education and training? Because isn't that useful to continue to keep them appraised of new and upcoming wonderful things in building inspectorville? If you look down under, it says subscriptions, membership, and then education and training, straight zeros across. Do we not send these people to training randomly? I mean, I would think that that would be something that would be beneficial, and we should do.
All candor, most of the training they receive is free of charge.
Probably some of that, maybe in human resources as well, maybe. Some-
If we need to use it, it's there,
Yeah,
but technically, it's amazing, I think, that a lot of this stuff is sponsored by the agencies who issue the licenses. And here we only have one license, it's building inspector. So, and continuing education and training is typically sponsored by the state. And it's no charge to us.
Same with like professional fees also. Do we not have to pay professional fees anymore? Because they did it one time, it seemed that it was budgeted for 1,000.
We did a lot once upon a time, but we haven't done any at all lately.
What would the reason be for that?
Because we had personnel that could do it.
One time we had to pay county.
So I know that this is kind of petty stuff, but do they not use the internet or do they use some, does that come out of a different? Because it says no charge for internet, but they in their office, so how does the internet work?
That's in City Hall.
Okay, so it's,
General government.
okay.
You have the.
And no, they don't have the uniform that they wear, they don't have.
No, they don't.
City of Bisbee. Shirts or anything.
He has a badge for his, building inspector duties.
And he does have some logo shirts.
Okay.
So where do those, does that come out of a different fund then?
Yeah, Matt bought it for him. He hasn't, judging from its age, we can't tell you.
Yeah.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah, I haven't.
Call
I
off
haven't
of
seen them.
I was waiting. No, I was just curious, because everybody, you see most people, I shouldn't say, right, you see most people in the city, they have the logo shirts, I'm just curious, do they come out of each individual department? Does it come out of human resource? Does it come out of the mystery t-shirt patch?
Yeah, no, like for our guys, we have, it's under contract services because we have a contract with the Centos company.
Okay,
For all of our public works guys out in the field, so that's where that, you won't see like it's like, you will see one that says, clothing, but that's for like tomorrow, but that's, their food allowance and stuff like that.
okay, that's what I was trying to clarify, where that comes from. Either, because it's not, I would say it's really uniform, it's not like a fireman's uniform.
Yeah.
It's a good call. What's it called? Yeah.
Safety, polo shirt, clothing.
What do you call it? Swag.
Well, we have some numbers like for books and references and stuff, they have some numbers on like for books.
Yes.
And references. And,
That's what-
yeah.
That's
material.
how they,
Okay,
do their training and stuff.
yeah, I see that, so they have a budget for that, so $500, yeah,
One thing's different. The phone, why the phone is so high. right
yeah.
now. Maybe could you give 2 phones to one to each?
No, he has the old.
Flip phone?
Yes,
Oh, you got it.
he's one of our connoisseurs.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, the other, employee
See
that
that phone.
is part-time, he's public works, so he gets a phone from public works.
Oh, okay, so it's kind of that across the
Yeah,
share factor, so to speak.
yeah, because most of the time he's in public works, so.
Well,
Okay,
if the next
Parks. Parks, again, the big difference. Is gonna be on the personnel side. And, we did. Bump up the, if you go down to other expenses, we did bump up water.
Yeah.
In anticipation of the, fallout from what the visit we had from Arizona Water. They're sort of rate increase in the corporation commission for 30%. They never get what they ask for, but they'll probably get 20%. And so, Parks is one of our high water users, so, we thought it was appropriate to move that one.
So we don't have any memberships in parks of any kind?
No, not that I know
I've got a question.
Sure.
As far as water for the parks, is there any way we can use our effluent?
It's a question of being able to bring the effluent back up to parks.
Do we not have a new water tender?
Well, it's not new.
Well, new to us.
And Public Works has one too, but, when you look at, when you look at the amount of money we're already spending on water, $17,000 this year. That's a lot of water. I mean, that's several tenders a day at least.
You could do some trees, but you can't put it into the system that pump it. It's
You know, I mean, we could do a system similar to what's at the cemetery in every park. It still would be practical because then that would increase the number of runs that we'd have to have an employee to run the tender. Pretty much full time. If there was a way to pipe the water back up to the parks, absolutely, I'd use everything. Yeah.
So there's no way that you could do any kind of gravity feed with the water tanks like we're doing. in the cemetery?
We're running uphill.
No, I mean, but I'm saying with water things, it's so much. Or
Definitely,
the trees, I should say, more.
I mean, we don't want, the only water that the trees get on like Vista, let's say, is from the sprinklers. Oh, no, sorry, never mind. I take that back. There is a drip system. I'm sorry. So that's I'm sorry, that's something that we could. I was like, wait a minute. yeah.
You can't mix that with culinary or else it would get, you have to have separate systems. Or else.
Well,
They are tied together.
yeah, reclaimed water. That be next to full water
Yes.
in the same way.
Can I jump back real quick and ask a quick question on cemetery? Are the horses there?
Yes. Yeah, they built the structures that they should be there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry,
They should be there.
It's coming time.
As far as I know, they've been there.
Okay. All right.
But
If not, when we go to Ace.
No.
Or B and D.
No, we're talking- oh,
no, yeah, we have the host. They should be there.
Okay.
I have a question. On the repairs and maintenance. Why do you anticipate for it to go down? You're estimating to finish the year at 2,500 and it's gonna go down to 1,500.
Which one am I? on?
Repairs and maintenance vehicles.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this replace a very, very old dilapidated truck.
Or you have it, so you don't need that.
Yeah, one of those white trucks that we just got, one of those is.
So that's the reason we don't expect to. Okay, that makes sense.
So I have another question too. Why are we budgeting $6,000 for Mo Higginsville Recreation?
That's a grant from, Disney Boat.
Okay.
The grant revenue actually came in this year, we're gonna spend it.
Monopoly money.
Not really, I'm just, no money. Okay. Cool. Pool's gonna be a wild card this year. And bear with me for a minute, because, where we are right now is, examining every pipe, the site of every line. Everything we can, working with Kimberly Horn, our engineering firm, to come up with a recommendation, which, I have told them they want on Wednesday. And if I don't get it on Wednesday, it's gonna be part of the city manager's report next Tuesday. So I've made it abundantly clear that I want something to tell the community by that time. Now, having said that, I want to do two things. I want to assure you that it is highly unlikely that we're gonna open the pool this season. Okay, the depth and breadth of the issue is pretty big. Okay. And I know some of it, but I don't know all of it. And what I do know is that the existing system on its best day can't turn over a pool of water in 8 hours. On its best day. Okay. That means we're gonna have to spend some money and do some things. Okay. The second thing I want to say, and I've said this 3 or 4 times in public meetings already, is to assure the community that we plan to fix the pool so it can go back into business. Okay. I'm hearing from something or somebody every day who's lamenting the fact that the pool is gone forever. That is simply untrue. Okay. Don't know where these rumors are coming from. I have some ideas, but more than one person saying this. It's absolutely untrue that we don't plan to fix the pool. We do. Okay. We're just at a point where we've got 2 things that we have to consider. We have to consider fixing this one so that we can at least get back in business next year if we can't open it up this year, which is highly unlikely. And I think we have to start thinking about an eventual replacement. Now, based on what we find out when we're all done, tearing it all down, put it back together, on its best day, it's still gonna be out of level. So you're gonna have to replace it beyond its useful life. It was built approximately, well, I was very young. Okay, and like the pool, I don't look very young anymore. And so, I think that it's a worthy cause to start looking at if we can keep that pool operating for another 10 years, to be able to find a way to build a pool someplace in 10 years. I also don't think the side of the mountain's a good place. But we're there and we have been, for 60 years. But the next time, maybe we ought to look at a piece of ground that might be a little more stable in the long run. So I don't want to say anything negative about that pool. It has served the city well. But I think it's time we start looking for alternatives. But we are committed to fix the pool we have so that we have a swimming pool until we can. Okay, I'm hoping that that's a clear enough statement, because one of the people that asked me the question this morning happened to be someone from the media. And I was a little surprised to get a question from the media after talking about this so much. So anyway, we are budgeted to run a pool. Okay. If we don't run the pool, then we don't spend the personnel money. If we don't spend the personnel money, then we're going to be spending money fixing. Okay. There are sources other than this budget where repair funds will come from. Okay. Building maintenance budget. Okay, that's one of them. If you want to do it, there's $100,000 in the contingency fund at the end of the general fund every year. But we rarely spend it. What's it for? It's for emergencies and opportunities. Okay, so there's $100,000 there. And if it ends up costing more than that, you have the fund balance in the general fund, which would require your approval to spend. So spending the money that is required to fix the pool as soon as we know it is money we have. And we will use it. With your blessing, of course. So that's where we are. And hopefully next Tuesday, is it next Tuesday? Council meeting?
Yeah.
Yes.
Not next, well, not tomorrow.
Oh, oh. Yeah, I figured that one out. We will have more news for you by that time, and it'll be news of a technical nature. So in the meantime, this sits as it is until we do something different.
Steve, there's no way, you're saying unlikely, so it doesn't sound.
Well, I can be more definite and say definitely not, but I don't want to because there's, a 5% chance we can. The 5% isn't very real.
How did you end up here? That's the question.
Well, that's a discussion that doesn't pertain to the budget, so we'll have that budget another day. We had that discussion at a prior council meeting. It didn't go well. We're not going there tonight. We're talking about the budget tonight.
That's fine, yeah.
Can I ask a real quick question though? So you did talk about potentially down the road looking, which I guess pertains to the budget, to a new pool, new location. Has people started investigating anything grants?
Not yet.
We are, if I can say, we are, have open eyes, and our grant writers keeping their eyes open. You can say that.
We should have a window for federal money that for another couple of years yet. So any opportunities to come along for any service to the community, we will definitely apply. Hopefully this is better than sewer and water lines.
Yeah, let's get the library.
Yeah, we're gonna go by that for tonight, and Jason should be joining us tomorrow. Senior Center, I just want to say at the outset that, that's been a real success story this year. One of which we can all be very proud. That's one of those places that we haven't, invested a lot of money in over the years. Through the good fortune of ARPA, we're able to invest some real dollars in that place, and it shows. We can't do everything, but we do much more. We'll just have hold the building. So there are a few things they would still like us to do. Most of it is fairly small in nature, like pictures and that sort of thing. We can do that out of the regular maintenance budget, and it's going to be, not only better than before, but it's also going to be bigger than before, because we inherited the 5 offices that CEO used to occupy. And we've knocked out a couple of those walls and turned it into bigger rooms, let's just put it that way. So they can, when they do your income taxes, next year you can do it in a semi-private room instead of doing it out in the middle of everybody, so.
And the kitchen.
And the kitchen. So, like I say, if I had any wish that I could make come true, it would be to get rid of that propane tank.
Yeah.
And convert to electricity. And if you had solar power to go along with that, that would be a move that I would make in a New York.
Do you think it would be cheaper going electric than with propane?
At the moment, no, but it would be if we had an alternative power source. And since APS has committed to us that they're gonna put solar panels in the parking lot at the senior center, then that should give us the.
Mini splits, pretty efficient.
Also, you didn't budget for repair and maintenance. Is this because what?
Yeah, it goes back to the building maintenance.
It goes, so that will also be taken out of the year.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Last but not least.
Contingency, again, that's the one budget that we put money in to budget for opportunities, unexpected expenses, and emergencies. And I think we used it maybe twice in all the years I can remember. So, but that money is available for emergencies, so if we have to use it, we will. In this year's budget, we put $100,000 and we're yet to spend any of that. So that money's still available for emergency expenses through June 30th. And then this will take over after that. And that, my friends, ends the general fund. As you can see, general fund revenues and expenses are matched at approximately $9,700,000. And Mr. Mayor, I would suggest that we stop until now, if I could.
Yes, sounds good. I'll make a motion to reset until 5:30 tomorrow. I have a second. Have a second to recess. Motion and second to reset until 5:30 Tuesday tomorrow. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Ayes have it. So we are in recess until tomorrow.